My name's Tom Stoukas, coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario. Tonight on April 17th. Sorry, just got done watching the leaders debate, the English leaders debate. And at least this one I could understand. The French one I didn't really pay attention to. But yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this one. But first of all, the polling came out, the daily polling, and it looks like the lead is narrowed a bit, so it's like less than 5% now, a little less than 5% that the Liberals are ahead of the Conservatives. So it's tightening up. But, as the debate showed tonight, you're basically getting the same, by excluding Maxime Bernier, they took the immigration thing off the table. So nobody there really wanted to talk about it. And they did here and there because I think they were probably reading the X comments saying, why are they talking about immigration? So they snuck in a comment here and there. I know Pierre did. But it wasn't like a main topic. So because to acknowledge it as a topic would say it's an issue. And heaven forbid, you don't want to be called racist or anything. So they talked about everything else but immigration. And it reminded me of the last election when I call it the COVID election. And they had the leaders debate. And at the time of the leaders debate, it was the height of COVID. Actually, it was kind of like getting up there. We had the travel ban on unvaccinated, so they couldn't even leave their own country. And then a lot of employee mandates, so people had to get vaccinated to keep their job. And it was a lot of trampling of rights going on, and none of the parties basically talked about it. They agreed with the policy, just how to implement it better, I guess. Like when it came to vaccines and lockdowns, and they were all on the same page. So this is what it reminds me of. Although they basically didn't talk about it. Like, it's like let's not talk about all the, people can't travel. People treated like second classes. And then a few months later, they did the vaccine pass, I believe. So yeah, they did that. Shoot, when was it? Anyway, no, it might have been the same time, the vaccine passport. So the point is they had a debate, and all this stuff was going on. The country was on, and they didn't talk about COVID barely. All they talked about was how they're going to fix it. They didn't talk about no party talked about the draconian laws and policies. So I don't think Max was in that one. But obviously he would have said something. So this is what this debate tonight reminded me of, is they left the big issue off the table that they don't want people talking about, or they don't want to answer questions. And they talked about everything else. So who's going to be better on the economy? Who's going to handle Donald Trump better? Who's going to, same idea, just a little variation. And with like foreign policy, Middle East, if anything, Pierre's like more for Israel attacking Iran than Carney. That's the only difference. But Ukraine, they're about the exact same. So you're not seeing much difference here. It's all you're seeing is just kind of hair splitting. I also noticed Jagmeet. They should have just had a debate between Carney and Pierre. Really, let's be realistic here. If you're gonna start excluding people like Max, like PPC and the Greens, well, might as well just exclude Jagmeet too, and the block guy. Keep the block guy and the French one, I guess. Um, he didn't really go after Carney as hard as I thought he would, but yeah, it would have been more. I'd rather have just watched Pierre and Carney because Jagmeet just kept butting in, butting in, butting in. And like nobody wants to vote. He's not even going to win his own riding, so he's just trying to remain as relevant. Or he took money from Carney to run interference. Who knows? I wouldn't doubt Jagmeet. He likes the finer things in life, so he might, wouldn't mind the bonus. But seriously though, like he was all over the place because he probably knew this is it for him. This is his last. This is his swan song. He's got to go big. Maybe he'll land a lucky punch. I don't think it happened for anybody though. Like it'll be interesting to see the polls because there's no more debates. This is it, and a lot of people are waiting for this to kind of like make up their minds, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how the polls, which way they swing. But yeah, basically, immigration is a non-issue in Canada, and if you talk about it, you're racist. But last time I checked, we got major issues with immigration when it comes to like excessive immigration, driving up housing, putting huge stress on social systems and healthcare systems, education systems, municipal budgets, especially in the larger cities. Like this, it's unsustainable, and we still got the refugees flying in who you know cost a lot of money, and most of them are going to stay here. Trust me. So if you look at the conservative and liberals, both of them have half the parties like Indians or Chinese, which is whatever. There's going to be a few, but it's like it gets more and more every election. So these guys don't mind replacing us, like, and the fact that they didn't even want to talk about it tonight. So all that's really left is to see who wins, whether it's Pierre or Mark Carney. Will things be drastically different with either one? Probably not. But no difference. It's such a contrast too, because I remember when Trump was running for president, just now, the first thing he literally said at the debate against Joe Biden was about immigration. Literally, and he wouldn't shut up about it. Like the whole time, the whole campaign, that's was his main thing, and he won. But Pierre wants it. He loves it. Look at his candidate. He'll kick out a well-established candidate for a 25-year-old Indian. It's crazy. Carney's the same way too. He has no problem. So you want to know the biggest issue? Focus on the one they won't talk about, and that was the one. And wait till the election's over, and whatever party wins, it won't be an issue then. It'll be like whatever. But we'll see. And so yeah, getting there. Less than 2 weeks now for this election. Can't wait for it to be over too. Anyway, we'll go through this. The daily recall on X. Been a long day. I'm glad these debates are over though. It would have been nice if Maxime Bernier was there, because then they would have had to talk about the immigration. But that's probably why he wasn't there. Obviously, like they didn't. The Rebel News thing too was funny. They didn't put up with it today though. I gotta look. We gotta find out what.
You know what's important?
What happened with that?
You know, we had a tradition in this country.
Listen, if you get a...
All right. Oh, lots of stuff. All right. Let's see what happened. This is interesting. There's a lot of talk about Iran, Israel wanting to bomb Iran, and Trump talking like it's big. And then Netanyahu came to Washington just now, and the speculation was they were going to like get the permission and do a joint strike on Iran. And now it's looking like some members of the administration were against it. Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and Susie Wiles. So that's good. Wasn't expecting that. I thought they would totally give them the go-ahead. It's weird. I'm sure they'll try again, though. So I thought that was interesting.
Joe, and you don't have your facts straight about MMA, or you're going to say something bad about marijuana, he's going to crush you, right? He'll crush you in 5 seconds, and he will never let up until you start making sense. And if you don't, the conversation's over, right?
Sorry.
I mean, maybe he'll change the subject.
Anyway, the reason I'm showing this is because it's on my timeline all the time. And it's guys like this, Sam Harris, and also Douglas Murray, like that British dude who talks like a fairy. And they lecture us on who can say what and credentials to say what. And it's a thin veil for censorship. Like, that's all they're talking about, especially against Israel. Like, say it's anti-Semitism to talk about Israel. So now they're saying these podcasters, they don't know what they're talking about. They shouldn't be platforming people if they don't know what they're like. They're goofs. These guys, Sam Harris, Douglas Murray, they're just butthurt that people want to listen to Joe Rogan instead of their Zionist shilling. Like, I'm sure they make a lot of money. They're, cry some more. That's all they're doing is crying. Listen, look at this guy. I don't even know who listens to this guy, Sam Harris. Oh, we got a glitch here.
You get across the table from Joe, and you don't have your facts straight about MMA, or you're going to say something bad about marijuana, he's going to crush you, right? He'll crush you in 5 seconds, and he will never let up until you start making sense. And if you don't, the conversation's over, right? I mean, maybe he'll change the subject politely, but you're never coming back. And he will make no secret of the fact that he thinks you're a moron, right? He doesn't do that when Daryl Cooper, the podcast host and amateur historian who he really admires, gets on there and starts spouting David Irving's fake.
Anyway, you get the picture. So he's basically saying Joe Rogan shouldn't be putting people on. Like, it sounds like censorship to me. And I've been seeing a lot of like this, and this is the way they're going to go. Because the action is now with the podcasts, and this is their way of controlling the podcast, saying, you need a code of conduct, a code of ethics. You can't just run like it is. So basically what it really means is they're saying the peasants can't have a podcast. They can't listen to stuff without our approval. That's what they're saying. Fucking insecure. They're shills. They're paid shill, these people. They're just mad because nobody wants to listen to them. I hate people like that. Anyway, next post. Okay. This is for after the debate last night. It's what happened to cultural assimilation when is Irish, Scottish, English, or French Canadian Heritage Month. Why do they pander so much? And this is the frustration, because Pierre panders just as much as Trudeau when it comes to immigration, which is par for the course.
Conflicts onto our streets. You know, we had a tradition in this country before this government where you could come from places, the conflict-ridden places in the world, and you would leave the fight behind. You might have a debate about the politics of that place when you sat down in a coffee shop in Montreal or Toronto, but it never overflowed into street violence. We need to get back to that. You should know, we welcome people to this country. Sure, bring your culture, bring your traditions, bring your family.
Your family.
Do not bring foreign conflicts.
Your
onto
20
our streets.
cousins.
We're going to have peaceful streets again.
So basically, he's not talking about the millions of Indians taking over Canada. He's talking about a couple thousand protesters in Montreal and Toronto, again, Palestinian protesters. Like, that's the big immigration problem in Canada, is a few Palestinian protesters, and not the millions of Indians coming here and basically forming their own enclaves throughout Canada. Like, that's this guy. Like, he's talking about immigration, about Palestinians, but not about the millions of Indians coming.
We're going to be united. All of us should consider ourselves Canadian first and put foreign divisions behind us.
So he's basically just talking about
to the island airport. That's the white airport.
He didn't say anything by name, but he's talking about Palestinians or Palestinian supporters or pro-Palestinian protesters. Okay, you can have an opinion on them. I think they're a nuisance, but I don't like seeing kids getting blown up either. So there you go. But I'm more worried about the millions of Indians that are going to take over Canada at that rate. And it's not that I don't hate Indians. It's just the numbers are on their side. Big time, the numbers. So, but Pierre's more worried about a few Palestinian protesters who would leave Canada if they could. They'd go back to the Middle East, beautiful, but nobody wants to get bombed. Anyway, so that's Pierre doing his globalist. Everybody come to Canada, and as long as you bring your family, your 20 cousins. Oh my God. Next post. Israel doesn't even pretend to develop Iran war plans that don't require the U.S. to defend them or back up their attacks. So almost all the plans would have required U.S. help, not just to defend Israel from Iranian retaliation, but also to ensure that an Israeli attack was successful, making the United States a central part of the attack itself. So, yeah, U.S. seems to have not given the okay for it. So, a little bit of good news this week. Because I'm not like a Trumper, but the one reason I like Donald Trump is because he promised none of this adventurism, military adventurism, and if he goes into if he sticks to that, that's a good thing, I think. And also I liked is that he doesn't want to be enemies with Russia. Like I think that's a good thing. Everybody thinks that's a bad thing. I think I don't want to be enemies with Russia. I don't want to get blown up. All right, next post. Oh, another fake meat post. A bite-sized chunk of chicken meat can be grown in the lab. Look at that. Ugh, that's not chicken, man. That looks like a piece of human flesh. Probably is. And that's what the movie Soylent Green is. People, I guess, they should do a remake of it because it's a pretty old movie. But it's like, all I think about when I see fake meat is the movie Soylent Green. Because I guess it's people, so they're recycling dead people into food for the for the peasants, which doesn't really sound that out of the realm of possibility these days. I mean, they already went to crickets. What's Soylent Green's not far. Okay, next post. This is from yesterday. Jagmeet Singh being a little sissy and not answering questions from Rebel News. How the hell did Rebel News get in there? Like, they had all, like, I thought it was hilarious, to be honest. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how the hell are they? It's like every question is either Keenan Bext or Rebel News, or it's like, what happened to CT?
Biden standing against hate such as white supremacy.
And he was being a sissy. He wouldn't answer the question.
Standing against hate.
He's like, I'm not going to answer the question because I don't like Rebel News. It's like, well, they obviously got past the door. And they're already standing there in the microphone. So you just answer the damn question. Fucking wimp.
Such as white supremacy, Islamophobia, and all.
Sorry, I didn't get your outlet.
Drea Humphrey with Rebel News.
Okay.
Your party.
You know where I'm going to go with this, all right?
Can I speak?
Yeah, you can. I'm just going to say you know where I'm going to go with it, though.
Your party takes.
Actually, I'm going to ask a question which.
So yeah, that's him. Basically, he's going to go with it is like he doesn't talk to Rebel News. Big man, Jagmeet. Just don't talk to people you don't agree with. But I was shocked, to be honest, how many people Rebel News snuck in there. Obviously, they got in legitimately, but I'm just joking. I thought it was hilarious. Why not keep the politicians on their toes? Next post. There's another Iran post. Stakes net right now are as high as they get. Israelis beg Trump to greenlight an Iran attack. J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Hegseth spoke against it. But mere weeks later, top America First appointees are being purged at the Pentagon, and the Iran war lobby is in overdrive to kill a deal. Pierre was talking about Iran tonight. He was like, yeah. He's Israel, really. Him and Harper. So, let's see if they keep working on Trump to attack Iran. Next post. A lot of posts on the Ontario Place deal with this spa from Austria. Hopefully this brings down Ford. This could be a hit because it stinks.
Was flawed, that the company's financial position was weak with only $1 million in equity. But this government still went ahead and signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Therma, making them rich and maybe others on the backs of Ontario taxpayers. This deal is the grift that keeps on grifting. Why would this premier, who was a businessman, give a multi-billion-dollar deal to a company without checking them out? My question to the premier, when will he admit that his deal with Therma was a mistake and fix it?
Yeah, hopefully more comes out on this because it sounds like a sketchy deal. And, you know, Ontario Place was a beloved place in Toronto. And it's gone. It's destroyed. And who are these dudes that he's giving it to? It sounds like the grifters, too. But we'll keep our eye on that. Hopefully he's gone. Won't fix everything, but at least we'll have to look at his fat face. Doug Ford. All right. This is what I was talking about. They don't want you listening to podcasts because it's not approved They don't want you listening to things that go against Israel or globalists or whatever. So now they're calling it Podcastistan. It is a place where people scold the mainstream media, so like what I'm doing right now, for failing to live up to their standards while having none of their own. So they're saying I have no standards, or you have no standards. The peasants have no standards. That's what they're saying. They're saying you're too stupid, and you listen to the first guy who speaks, who's, you're too stupid to figure out what's real and what's not. That's what they're saying. And that's just the first step, because first they say, "Oh, you guys aren't doing it right." And, we better put a stop to some of this, especially the anti-Semitism. And then, next thing you know, nobody only approved podcasts. That's what these guys do. Look at this Douglas Murray. He gets money. Elite chills like Douglas Murray and that. I did a misspell there. Elite shills like Douglas Murray and Sam Harris pushing for censorship are the real grifters. They are butthurt that some peasants have thoughts and are capable of logical thinking. How dare they listen to someone not approved by these clowns? So basically they're saying big podcasts shouldn't be putting people on that supposedly aren't knowledgeable. So, I mean, who decides? Them? Next post. Look at this. Good Friday, Nathan Phillips Square. Now, for those of you not familiar with Toronto, Nathan Phillips Square is like the main square in front of City Hall. So right in basically downtown. And there's a lot of city events held there. It's very picturesque. A lot of tourists go there. So they're holding a Juma prayer Friday in Nathan Phillips Square. And I guess it's some Muslim mass prayer thing. And whatever. I don't have a thing against Muslim. I don't give I respect any religions, whatever. But doing this in Nathan Phillips Square, I think is ridiculous, because it's a public spot and, it makes no sense. Like, it's the same thing if you had a mass baptism in Nathan Phillips Square, or a mass communion, or a mass circumcision. I don't know. There's a lot of places in Toronto you can hold one of these. You don't need to go right in the middle of Toronto and gum up everything. And it's politicians allowing this in Canada. They're cowards. They could politely say, look, too bad, you're not doing it. You can do it somewhere else. When the Pope came, he rented the Sky Dome. He could fit as many people as he wanted in there. Nobody gives a shit. So, with due respect, it shouldn't be happening. And it's Olivia Chow. She's... poor Toronto. I feel so bad for... Like, I used to live in Toronto, so it's... Like, just imagine still living there. Oh. I mean, they could still do their prayers. They just don't have to do it in the middle of Toronto. All right, next post. Doug Ford's Toronto. Olivia Chow's Toronto. Mark Carney's Toronto. That's what we live in now. This is a quote on Doug Ford. Not a quote, but a satirical post. We did our due diligence on the Therm deal. They told us they had 6 spas already. They even showed me that on their website, and they sent me a... One of my junior staffers will be fired ASAP. Hopefully this has legs, please. This scumbag, look at him. How much hair dye he's got in there. Look at this clown. Look at him. He's so fake. Look at this fake. That real picture. The Beaverton. Ford insists dubious therm spa project met all the necessary bribes. Oh, I'm sure it did. A lot of kickbacks, I have a feeling. Hopefully more comes out of this. I'm going to be following it. Next post. Another post on Iran. How they decided not to attack Iran or approve of Israel's plans to attack Iran. So I'm sure they'll keep trying. Keep an eye open for that. That's the big talk of the day. NDP calling for criminal investigation into the Therm Group deal. Hopefully, they smell blood, hopefully. And then here's my latest, next, in my series of foreign-born politicians in Canada. PC, Progressive Conservative MPP, Amarjot Sandhu, parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Infrastructure. I guess he was born somewhere else. Anyway, I already looked at it. He was born somewhere else. He was born, I think, in India or whatever. But it's like, I'm starting to become more and more surprised how many foreign-born MPs and MPPs we have in Canada. It's like, nothing against them, but is there like nobody around who was born here that wants to be an MPP or an MP? Like, it's weird. That's all. It's weird. And I think that number's only going to go up if the trends continue. Maybe they're more interested in politics than we are, I guess. And this is another post on the Iran. A month ago, Tucker had wind of the Israeli plans to draw the U.S. into the war with Iran. I remember that post by Tucker, how he that post, I think I retweeted it. So hopefully, it should be interesting to see if they can continue to resist this war drum. Hopefully they can. And oh, surprise, surprise, Kinga Surma, who's the minister responsible for the Ontario Science Centre renovation and I think the Therm, whatever, she's a minister. She's another foreign-born politician. It's like, wow. Another foreign-born politician, Kinga Surma. Okay. Lots of posts today on Therm. Hopefully that's bringing us down forward. It sounds like a rotten, horrible deal for taxpayers. And the people that live around there. All right. This is about the debate tonight and how they don't want to talk about immigration. It says, immigration has repeatedly polled as being one, if not the most important issue to Canadians. 3/4 want immigration reduced. Half support mass deportations. Every party is very transparent in saying, fuck you, we hate you, die. Yeah? It's just like COVID. COVID mandates were raging and people were getting their lives and livelihoods destroyed, and they didn't say a word, these guys. Now the same thing. They're not saying anything. while we get flooded with third world. I'm sure nothing against them, but we're getting flooded. So yeah, we can't talk about immigration, basically. The one issue that we want to talk about. And there's Doug Ford doing some trying to come back from his comments about Pierre. Truth hurts Pierre's campaign.
Get rid of Bill C-69.
Oh.
And if people don't understand what Bill C-69, look it up. And you know, it's just a burden on development. It's years of red tape. Exactly what we're trying to get rid of. Bill C-69 is a disaster, in my opinion. I don't support it. I'll never support it. And whoever wins this federal election, you need to get Bill C-69 off the table and start creating prosperity. And you know, very bluntly, get your head out of the sand. We're in an
So, this is Doug Ford trying to be conservative again. And people say too little, too late, Doug. Yeah, people are pissed off at Doug Ford. It's hilarious. Again, I was talking yesterday, is like, I knew he was a liberal 5 years ago. I'm kind of surprised it took people this long. And someone made a good point that Carney's a very proponent of C-69, but why isn't Doug Ford fighting him, like publicly, like he's fighting Pierre? It's weird. Like, he's criticizing Pierre publicly, but he's not calling out Carney publicly. Something doesn't smell right. Next one, another Therm deal. Premier Doug Ford asks about Ontario Place and Therm Group and changes his story. We have no reason to believe there's been any wrongdoing. We're moving forward. Yesterday, Ford said he wanted to double check the contract to see if it passed the smell test. So, yeah, Ford's a dummy. Hopefully this is his downfall. I have a feeling it is. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me being wishful, but I have a feeling it is. All right. And there's Greg Wycliffe echoing my thoughts, like about during COVID, the COVID debates, they didn't talk about COVID mandates or anything like that. They just talked about getting more vaccines into people. So in 2021, they didn't talk about the vaccine mandates months before the trucker convoy. In 2025, they're not going to talk about immigration. So that's a good point. It's like months after the election, they had the trucker convoy. So it'll be interesting to see what they have after this election if they continue on the way they're going. Especially if people can't afford to live. Okay, next post. Another one. Let me get this straight. All parties in tonight's debate have agreed not to talk about immigration. Isn't that one of the main concerns Canada has? Yes, of course. Of course it is. But why talk about it? It's only your main concern. And this is why always wonder what you can't talk about. Next post. National Post, which hasn't published a single article about May and PPC since the beginning of the campaign, finally wakes up after my interview with Tucker Carlson. So yeah, People's Party getting some press. And then also next, Harrison Faulkner, another thing. Not one mention of mass immigration in this entire segment of the debate about affordability and the cost of living. Only in Canada. Yeah, just like the COVID. and this is another theme of the night for the debates, jag meat. Everybody's annoyed. Everybody was annoyed with jag meat. They're like, shut him up. He was butting into everybody. It was hilarious. Next post. Well, that was my thoughts. The debate tonight is BS. Like, I watched it, but it's like these guys are talking about everything except the most important issue destroying Canada, which is mass immigration. It reminds me of the last election when the leaders talked about everything except the draconian COVID mandates destroying people's lives. And so some things don't change, apparently. And this will be our last post. Debate Commission is informing reporters that the post-debate media Q&A with party leaders is canceled due to security concern. No other information be provided at this time. It's hilarious. They don't want the rebel news to bug them again. We got to find out what happened there. And that's it. Very disappointed. But if they don't want to have a debate on mass immigration, they'll just have to have a informal one in a few months. If the analogy with COVID rings true, stays true. So, at least that's over with. Can't wait for this election to be over with. Oh. All right, guys. I will talk to you Monday. Until then, have a nice Easter weekend. All right. Thank you.